legit. Anything you want.
All right. Yesterday morning, JP Morgan Chase, one of the largest banks in existence, announced that they would be dipping their toe into the crypto space and creating their own JP Morgan coin. JP Morgan is rolling out the first ever US bank-backed cryptocurrency. To put this into perspective, in terms of the clientele that JP Morgan has and the money that JP Morgan manages, this lender, JP Morgan Chase, moves more than $6 trillion around the world every day for corporations. Now, there's no denying that if you're Ripple Labs, in the perfect utopian world, you wish that this clientele and this money would have went into XRP. But it didn't. It's staying with JP Morgan, at least for now. This does position JP Morgan in direct competition with Ripple Labs, though, and it positions JP Morgan's token in competition with XRP. So my question to you is, if you hold XRP, should you start to worry? Because technically, both JPM Coin and XRP, they cater to the same clientele. So is XRP still needed? As you know, I don't hold any XRP. But at the same time, I don't want today's video just to be a hit piece on XRP. I want to have a real, honest discussion. I want to talk about what JPM Coin is, how much does this truly affect the future of XRP, and then at the very end, now that we've had 24 hours to digest, I want to take a look at Ripple's response to JP Morgan Coin and the community's response and how this is going to affect crypto in general. All this and more here at Altcoin Daily, where you subscribe for a video on cryptocurrency every day. My name's Austin, and I've said this many times, but I'm not the smartest guy in the room. So if you have an opinion, if you have some insight, please leave it in the comments, and let's all have a discussion together. Let's start by learning exactly what JPM Coin is. And right now, it's about to go into pilot testing. So it's not fully implemented into JP Morgan yet, but it's about to be tested. And at this moment, there are 3 early applications for the JPM Coin. The first is the most obvious to me. It's for international payments for large corporate clients, which now typically happen using wire transfers between financial institutions on decade-old networks like SWIFT. So they're going after Ripple's business. Essentially, it's for cross-border payments for corporations, for corporate clients, as well as banks. And with JP Morgan Coin, obviously, it's for cheaper, faster transactions. That's the number 1 use case. Number 2, the second is for securities transactions. Sort of obvious as well. It's solving, right now there's a time gap between transactions, and now with JPM Coin, institutional investors can use the JP Morgan token, resulting in instant settlements. That's number 2. It's for faster transactions. And number 3, the final use case, would be for huge corporations that use JP Morgan's treasury services business to replace the dollars that they hold in subsidiaries across the world. So we'll take a look at this more in a minute, but this is where are we? We'll take a look at this more in a minute, but this is a stable coin. So every JP Morgan token is pegged to $1 US. Where are we? What is my takeaway on this for JPM Coin? To me, what I'm seeing is that JPM Coin is a highly centralized digital coin that's built on a closed-off blockchain. It's a permission-based blockchain as opposed to the permissionless blockchains that we're used to in cryptocurrency. Permissionless means that anybody can see it. Permission-based blockchains means it's a closed system, and that's the JPM token. And it's going to be used right now at the start. It's going to be used internally to transfer money internally for JP Morgan, as well as for some other clients and customers. So if you want to invest in JPM Coin, you can't, because it's not for public distribution or sale. It's just internally for them. Let's keep going. That's kind of what the use cases are for JPM Coin. Let's talk about how it works. This is a great press release directly on JP Morgan's website. Some of the most frequently asked questions. I just want to go over some of the few ones here. The cryptos that we're typically used to, Bitcoin, Ethereum, they're uncollateralized, meaning they're not pegged to gold or to money, and the value is intrinsic to the coin, as opposed to JPM Coin, redeemable for 1 fiat currency. That's the collateralization. The blockchain, as I mentioned, is permissioned, i.e. enterprise-grade, secure blockchain solution built by JP Morgan, and it's only for institutional customers that are involved in JP Morgan. And last but not least, while regular cryptocurrencies are investable, JPM coin, it's only for use cases involving internal payments. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. I mean, we kind of knew this already in terms of what exactly the technology is behind JP Morgan coin. It's something called Quorum. And I'm going to go a little slower. I took some notes because I'm not a developer. So feel free to speed this video up to 1.25 speed if that's your thing. But this is from one Los Angeles-based founder, crypto hedge fund founder. JPM project is more evolutionary than revolutionary. It's utilizing a private permission-based blockchain called Quorum. This is what I want to go over with you, Quorum, which is much closer to a Google Sheet than Bitcoin. So JPM coin runs on Quorum, which is, from the research that I've done, it's a permissioned enterprise version of Ethereum. So it's technically a fork off the Ethereum code. So it's not really a fork off the main chain of Ethereum, but it's based on some Ethereum code. Quorum, built more for enterprises, meaning it's private, meaning it's controlled internally in a closed system. That's the tech behind it. Let's get to the big question. That big question being, where was Ripple in all this? What's their take? Where was Ripple in all this? Why didn't they use Ripple? Everything JPM coin aims to do, Ripple's already done. Why reinvent the wheel? And that's true. Ripple's been around for 4 or 5 years. JP Morgan has obviously been around for a lot longer. But why not just use XRP? This is kind of a biased kind of review. I'm going to put it more in a broader perspective. But the fact that the largest bank in the wealthiest country, the USA, opted to create its own token instead of using Ripple's is a chilling reality for Ripple. Much like any software-based product, nothing they're doing is immune from being replicated or usurped. And let's read this before I give you my perspective, because this is that dirty little secret. The dirty little secret here is that if JP Morgan can do it, so can the next largest bank, and so on and so forth. That can happen with Citigroup, can happen with Goldman Sachs, and starting with JP Morgan, and they can do it without you, Ripple, and you'll become the token of insignificant banks that can't afford to do the same. Although this is bias, and I know the XRP bot army will probably downvote this video, which I'm willing to take that risk. I hope that doesn't happen. I think there's some truth in that. It's a double-edged sword. The fact is that because JP Morgan, which we found out yesterday, and Swift, which we found out last week, they're building their own system, means that they're taking cryptocurrency seriously. It also could mean that they're taking XRP seriously. And in my opinion, competition is good, but this is something we've been talking about for a long time, that the banks are going to try and remain in control. And I think this guy brings up a good point that because JP Morgan's creating their own token, he's saying that no other bank is going to, he's saying that the other big banks that can afford to create their own cryptocurrency, why wouldn't they do it? Why would they use somebody else's system when they can just create their own? And I tend to agree with that. To put is JP Morgan right now in direct competition with XRP? I would say kind of, because while this does take away a portion of the market saturation that XRP is trying to get, and again, in 10 years, they could easily maybe get it from JP Morgan in the future, no other bank is going to use the JP Morgan coin. They're going to create their own, or they could possibly use Ripple. What did I write here? No other bank is going to use another bank's token. Yeah, that's true. Let me know what you think about that. I want to get to what Brad Garlinghouse and Ripple thinks about that. Let's see. A direct tweet from Brad Garlinghouse, the CEO of Ripple, yesterday. As predicted, banks are changing their tune on crypto, but this JPM project misses the point. Introducing a closed network today is like launching AOL after Netscape's IPO. 2 years later, and bank coins still aren't the answer. And so he's saying that they're too late to the game. He's saying Ripple's already created and they're too late. And here's the thing. This is what you can say about Ripple. They're still making, they're still optimizing and progressing, and actually this just came out 4 hours ago. Ripple has updated. They have a new version of their XRP ledger days ahead of schedule, which is good to see. In my opinion, it's all going to come down to users. That's going to make the difference. And while Brad Garlinghouse, of course you would say, as predicted, the banks are doing this, no big deal, there is some truth to this, because in 2016, he wrote an article on LinkedIn, A Case Against Bankcoin, where he did say, scenario 1, Ripple takes over the world, but the more likely scenario, scenario 2, is banks not in the issuing group issue their own digital assets with their own set of rules and governments. So yes, you got to give it to Brad Garlinghouse. He did say in the most likely scenario, banks would issue their own digital assets. We strongly believe that banks need an independent digital asset. We believe XRP is the best position for that role. Interesting. In my opinion, and look, I'm going to leave this infograph in the description below, but XRP, it's a nice little infographic. They do have a nice chart, or somebody made a nice chart saying which banks, which institutions right now are using XRP, are testing XRP, and the list goes on. The problem is these are all small fish. And there's nothing wrong with having a large clientele of small fish, which is, in my opinion, what's going to happen. Why don't I invest in XRP? Because I think that, first of all, I wouldn't support a bank coin. How would that really change anything? That's the problem that we have now. But also, I think that banks are just going to create their own thing. Why would they use XRP? Why would governments adopt XRP? That's my opinion. Obviously, the Ripple Army has their own opinion. And yes, maybe smaller banks that can't afford to create their own cryptocurrency, XRP is the solution. That's fair. Last but not least, let's go to what the community thinks and how this will affect XRP in general. Whale Panda says, on a serious note, I think the JP Morgan thing is long-term a positive thing for Bitcoin. Let them play around with their stablecoin. Once we get more mainstream, the cryptocurrency infrastructure already sort of exists. So he's saying this is par for the course. We expected these banks to try and latch on and remain in control. A lot of people were betting on XRP. He's saying that by the time that Bitcoin and cryptocurrency are more part of the mainstream, are more around in the mainstream, cryptocurrency infrastructure will already be the norm. It's White Panda's opinion. I want to support him. I'm going to like that. And last but not least, Pomp. I think his was the most insightful. He tweeted yesterday, the most popular token for money laundering this year will be JPM coin. Exactly. I like that. Part of the problem. Banks are already committing illegal things. That's why cryptocurrency was created, in fact. And he's saying that now this is just going to be a faster, cheaper way for banks like JP Morgan, to keep laundering their money. Let me know what you think. Today was just a jumping off point. We can obviously go into this topic. We can keep going into this topic more and more. As new updates come out, I will put out a video. I will keep you updated, so make sure you subscribe to the channel. All right. Appreciate you guys tuning in. I'll see you tomorrow.